General Hertling, in practical terms, on the battlefield and in strategy, how big of a deal is this pause in aid for the Ukrainians?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the word strategy, Anna, because I'd like to talk about that in a minute. Strategy has nothing to do with deal making. It has to do with what are your strategic objectives? What are you trying to accomplish? And right now, there is no strategic clarity in terms of what the president wants to do. You just heard Vice President Vance talking about we want Ukraine to be a sovereign country and regain its territory, and they want to contribute to a solution. But what is that solution if the tables are leaning continuously toward Russia? Well, when you ask me the question about what does the stoppage or the pause in shipment of ammunition and equipment, what I'd say is, I'll use a military acronym we sometimes kid about, DOTS. It depends on the situation. We have now a situation in Ukraine where they're going from what the military calls a required supply rate, what do they need on a daily basis, to a controlled supply rate. And because you're talking about all different kinds of things, anything from small arms bullets all the way up to Patriot missiles and parts and the kinds of things that any military commander needs in warfare, as soon as you put a pause or a stoppage on that kind of thing and a disruption in the supply rooms, it causes just dysfunction on the battlefield, confusion, and it's going to hurt Ukraine. So if that's part of the strategy that will contribute to Ukraine regaining their territory, I can't connect the dots between what the administration's doing.
And of course, Congress has a big role in terms of approving aid. I want to point out that exactly 3 years ago, March of 2022, Senator Lindsey Graham had called for Putin to either be arrested or assassinated after he invaded Ukraine. And he slammed then President Biden for not defending Ukraine more vigorously. Listen to this.
I smell a sellout coming when it comes to the Ukraine. Your last guest mentioned neutrality. Well, here's what I would say that Putin wants. He doesn't want a neutral Ukraine. He wants to eradicate Ukraine. I will be dead set against any deal that requires the Ukrainian people to recognize half of the Ukraine belongs to Russia by force of arms.
Back then, a lot of Republicans agreed with him. Right now, Russia controls roughly 20% of Ukraine. And Graham is defending the administration's stance that there needs to be a negotiated settlement here. General, if Russia walks away with a large chunk of Ukraine, what kind of footing does that leave the rest of Europe on?
We don't have to guess, Anna, because Russia has already done that in Moldova. They've taken a part of Moldova called Transnistria. They have taken a part of a place called Nagorno-Karabakh between Armenia and Azerbaijan. They've taken Crimea and the Donbass 8 years ago. They are looking to take more countries like that. And what they do, it's a Russian technique, and I became very familiar with it as commander of U.S. Army Europe. They will take a bite out of the land. They will plant their flag, stay there, cause disruptions in that government as part of irredentism. Oh, I forgot to mention Georgia, too, with 2 provinces of Abkhazia and South Ossetia in Georgia. We have seen this over and over again over the time of Mr. Putin being in office. What he will do is seize that 20% of Ukrainian land, continue to harass the Ukrainian government. We can put peacekeepers in place, but it just causes dysfunction in a sovereign territory. And that's what we'll see. And Mr. Putin will once again have gotten away with taking an expansion of his territory, a bite out of other people's lands in his attempt to reestablish the Soviet Union.
Retired Lieutenant General Mark Hertling, really appreciate you being with us. Thanks so much.